I was 14 when I realized I didn't really matter in my own family. It wasn't a sudden moment, just a slow, painful truth that became clear after years of forgotten birthdays, empty seats at my soccer games, and no one showing up for school meetings. My sister Chloe was the favorite. She was the miracle child after mom had a tough miscarriage. Everyone treated her like sunshine, and I was just the shadow they ignored. Chloe got everything: private tutors, violin lessons, a new phone every year, and a beautifully decorated room. I, on the other hand, shared a room with the laundry and was told that wearing old clothes would make me stronger. I didn't mind at first, not really. I told myself they just had to work harder after Chloe was born, that I was older and stronger and didn't need as much. But it's hard to ignore the contrast when you ride a beat-up bike to school and your sister gets dropped off in a chauffeur-driven Audi for a violin recital she never even practiced for. My dad used to say, "We're raising two kids, not running a competition," but it always felt like a contest I didn't sign up for, one where the judges had already decided the winner before I even stepped onto the stage. Then came the Christmas before Chloe turned 18. I had just gotten into a local college on scholarship, working part-time since I was 15, keeping a 4.0 GPA, helping with house chores and Chloe's homework, but none of that seemed to matter. That morning, I woke up early out of habit, not out of excitement. I wasn't expecting much, maybe a card, maybe a new hoodie if I was lucky. But there it was, wrapped in silver paper, a ribbon the size of a football, sitting in the driveway, a brand new Lexus. I didn't even need to ask. Chloe screamed and ran toward it like she was auditioning for a commercial. My parents followed with beaming faces, snapping photos, and telling her to pose with the bow. I stood behind the living room curtain, watching, waiting, hoping like an idiot. Eventually, Dad turned around and said, "We didn't forget you." He reached into the garage and rolled out a bicycle, a used one with a flat tire. "You can ride this to your college classes." It wasn't the car, it wasn't even the bike, it was what he said next. "You're more practical anyway. Chloe needs something flashy to get to her internship. You don't care about that stuff, right?" I didn't care. I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek and nodded. "Thanks," I said. I spent the rest of the day holed up in the attic, watching snow fall through a small circular window, wrapping my disappointment in silence like it was a gift I never asked for but had to pretend to love. But in that silence, something cracked open, not a breakdown, more like a blueprint. I started planning quietly, methodically. Every year stronger and "you're used to less" became fuel. I took more shifts at the campus bookstore, learned coding on the side, and launched a side hustle fixing people's broken websites. When I wasn't studying or working, I was learning taxes, investments, flipping used tech, buying into stocks everyone else laughed at. I graduated early with honors. Chloe dropped out of her internship because it was too stressful and took a gap year. My parents still didn't notice. They sent her to Bali to recover from burnout. Meanwhile, I moved into a shoebox apartment, worked in my car between classes, and eventually pitched my tech service to a small investor. It wasn't much at first, but it grew slowly, steadily. The quiet, invisible grind I'd honed for years suddenly bloomed into a business worth noticing, and I made sure the first person to notice it was me. By Christmas of my senior year, things had changed radically. I didn't ride that bike anymore, I didn't need to. I drove something else now, but that part of the story comes next. Christmas morning came again exactly 1 year later. This time, I didn't wake up in a cramped apartment with snow leaking through the window panes. I woke up in a high-rise suite overlooking the skyline, floor-to-ceiling glass windows, underfloor heating warming the life I had built from scraps they left behind. My company had just secured a 6-figure contract with a global cybersecurity firm. I had 5 employees, a growing reputation, and a custom-ordered Bentley Continental GT waiting downstairs, a reward I gave myself the day I signed my first $1 million deal. It wasn't about the money, it was about no longer needing to knock on locked doors, hoping someone would let me in. But that Christmas, I decided I would go back home. Not because I missed them, but because I wanted them to see. I didn't call or text, I just drove. The roads were quiet, dusted in soft snow, and the drive felt like floating through a forgotten chapter of my past. When I pulled into the same driveway where they once gave Chloe a Lexus and handed me a used bicycle, the garage door stood open. The same broken lawn chair sat inside. The same old bike hung crooked on the wall. Chloe's Lexus was nowhere to be seen, apparently. She had wrecked it last summer and blamed the brakes. My parents covered it under their insurance and let her borrow their SUV. She had since moved back in after the stress of travel became too much to handle. My mom now referred to her as a delicate soul. I walked to the door, knocked, and waited. Dad opened it. His eyes flicked to the car parked behind me, a black Bentley that shimmered against the white snow. He blinked, confused. Is that a rental? I just smiled. No, it's mine. Chloe came down the stairs in designer pajamas, my guess. Another gift from them. Oh, wow, she sneered. Did you win a contest or something? I laughed, but not a pleasant laugh. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching this video from. Mom walked in from the kitchen and froze mid-step. She held a mixing bowl in one hand and the same look of pleasant disappointment she'd always worn in the other. But this time, it cracked. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I just looked around the living room, still decorated the same. The tree stuffed with color-coordinated presents. I spotted one with my name on it, probably socks, maybe a mug. I thought I'd bring my gift this time, I said, reaching into my coat pocket and pulling out a white envelope. "What is it?" Dad asked wearily. I handed it to him. He opened it, unfolded the document, and read, his face strained. What is this?" "It's a deed," I said, "to this house." Chloe gasped. Mom dropped the mixing bowl, it shattered against the tile. "You bought it?" Mom barked. "No," I interrupted, "I know I can, because I did. The bank accepted my offer. The house was on the verge of foreclosure, Mom. Guess those trips to Bali weren't free after all, huh? You can't just kick us out," Chloe snapped. "Actually," I said, pulling out another envelope, "these are the notices. You have 30 days. Dad stayed silent, holding the paper like it was foreign. "You've always said I was the practical one," I said, "so I made practical moves. You raised a businesswoman without even realizing it." Chloe threw her hands up. "This is insane. You're being vindictive." "No," I said, stepping toward the door, "I'm just returning the favor. Remember last Christmas?" "I do. Every pedal on that bike, every sleepless night, every year used to less." "Remembered," I said. "Mom, Dad, you gave me the basement, you gave her the world. I just bought the land you built it on." I walked out as they stood frozen and stepped into my Bentley with a deep, slow breath. The engine purred to life, soft and powerful, just like I had become. Then I drove past them, on Christmas morning, like they never existed. A few weeks later, the house was officially mine, legally, emotionally, and symbolically. My parents didn't say goodbye when they left. Chloe posted cryptic messages online about betrayal and ungrateful family, pretending she had been wronged. But I didn't respond, I didn't need to. I spent the first night alone in that house, walking room to room, letting the silence wrap around me. I touched the walls they'd once used to isolate me, stared at the corner where my childhood desk used to be, and opened the closet they once told me was all the space I needed. It felt like walking through the skeleton of an old war, but I wasn't the same girl they used to ignore. A month later, the same town that had watched me pedal that rusted bike in shame now lined up outside my new office building, my company's headquarters, built in the same district they once mocked as beyond your reach. It had my name on it, big, bold, permanent. At the grand opening, during a media interview, a journalist leaned in and asked, "What inspired you to start this?" I smiled slowly. "A bicycle and a Bentley." But that wasn't the biggest surprise. A few days after the story went viral, I got a handwritten letter from my grandmother, the one my family always said left nothing behind. Inside was a copy of her real will. It read, "My savings, stocks, and jewelry go to my first grandchild, the one who kept visiting me, even when no one else did." She had included the account number too. It had 7 figures. They had lied to me. They always knew the truth. But now, the money was already transferred, already invested, and already mine. Just like the justice they never saw coming. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.